Welcome to this month's webinar. This month's going to be a little bit different. Instead of expanding on a financial topic, I'm going to take the time and reflect on my past year as an independent financial advisor. There are going to be 5 lessons here. 2 of them are going to be lessons that others may benefit from in their own finances, valuable services that I provided to my clients that others might benefit from. And then 3 of these are valuable lessons I learned as a small business owner. Any small business owners out there might benefit. So this is what we're going to cover. We have first a case study, a 403B rollover. Next, effectively doing business with friends. And then the importance of record keeping, the importance of marketing, and another case study, the sale of a highly appreciated stock. So our first case study, this was some work I did with a client in getting to know them, collecting, organizing their accounts. We found that there was a 403B out there as an old retirement account. They weren't making any current contributions to the account. In fact, their employer had moved on and opened up a 401k, and this one was just sitting there defunct. I asked for some details about it and found that the 403B, which also used to be called a tax sheltered annuity, a TSA account, in fact, did have an annuity in it. And so I called the annuity company and I learned about the fees that my client was paying. So the problem was it was expensive. Her total fees were 1.75% annually. The investments inside of it were nothing special, just the annuity company's separate account, not particularly tailored to the client's needs. So the demographics, this was a pre-retiree in that fragile decade, 5 years before retirement, 5 years after retirement, the fragile decade where retirement planning is most important. So this client was a diligent saver, had been saving their whole career into this and other retirement accounts. The results, we rolled it over into a rollover IRA. So instead of paying that 1.75 annually, the client now pays 0.242% annually and has access to many more investment options, allowing me to more closely align the results that she would like in her retirement account and her risk tolerance. So the total savings here, over $5,000 a year, huge savings. And that's every year. So who can benefit most from this? People who work for tax exempt organizations and nonprofits generally have currently or have had these 403B tax sheltered annuity account. Next, I want to talk about effectively doing business with friends and family. This can be tough, right? A little bit fraught sometimes when you're mixing business with pleasure. The old saying, like money and blood don't mix, right? I found that actually it's really rewarding doing business with friends. It deepens the relationship. You get to learn more about your friends. You see them in a different light. They see you in a different light as well. And you get to spend time with the people you love the most, right? The only risk, of course, is damaging the relationship. So it's super important from day one, acknowledge we are friends. That's why you're here. Like you might want whatever it may be, but we're here today because we're friends. And that's the important part. Right? Yeah. And if the business ever gets in the way of the friendship, then the business would just be dropped and the friendship would continue because that was the most important piece. The way that I built my business, I made it super easy for me to work with friends and family because I didn't want to have any incentives that would benefit me and not them. A lot of advisors have commissioned products that they sell to clients, and there's nothing inherently wrong with this, but it creates an uneven relationship between the two. You're being paid for the sale and not for the service to the client. And so it can feel greasy a little bit. Always provide clear value for money when working with friends and family. And if they're also a small business owner or you have some way to reciprocate through a business relationship, keep that in mind, right? It's really great to support your community the same way they support you. So who benefits most? This is a win-win, right? There's a lot of common wisdom against it, but I really think that the small business owner wins and those closest to them win as well. So the next lesson I learned is the importance of record keeping. So there's record keeping in every business. It's usually like the least sexy part of the business. No one wants to do it. No one wants to think about it, but it's super important. So here are some common record types: accounting and tax records. So this is like bookkeeping, tax filing. CRM, so this is the customer relationship management. It's usually software. Client and vendor meeting notes. So this is much more common now with the advent of automated note takers in meetings. So then the management of those records then becomes its own task. Industry specific regulation. So I have increased regulatory scrutiny from the State Securities Board. I have certain documents I need to keep up to date, and a lot of other industries have this, even if it's just like a food service license, right? Just keeping up on that. And the next one is crypto wallets. I've run into this a number of times with clients. They have cryptocurrency, they've had it for a long time, and they have crypto wallets all over the place. Sometimes they know where they are and sometimes they don't, but maybe you consider yourself a portfolio company. If you're doing this, your crypto wallets are just another part of business records. My philosophy comes from biopharma, and I've learned that robust documentation follows the principles of Alcoa. This is a graph here of Alcoa++, which is not something that everyone needs, but the core part of Alcoa, I think most important. So that's making sure that all documentation is attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, and accurate. So the importance of record keeping is for business intelligence and training employees and contractors, as well as any regulatory requirements. So if you're not keeping good records, you're not going to be able to look back and say, what have I done over the last year in many different ways? And then how do I want to improve on that going forward? And then also training any employees. This is something that a lot of people struggle with. Standard operating procedures are difficult to generate technical documents that can have a lot of value, especially if you're onboarding people or working with like a virtual assistant or something. I believe industry regulation should not be a bar to entering business. So if you're entering an industry and you know it has a lot of regulation, congratulations. That just means you have less competition. And it might be harder for you to enter that business. But once you're in there, you have more of a moat around you. And then also, there's probably good reason for the regulations. I know that no one really likes these regulations. Like for my business, a lot of the regulations that I'm held to by the State Securities Board is meant to protect my clients. Then, yeah, take your time, automate the documentation as much as possible. It's not really value to the client. You can argue that it is, but it's really more valuable to you and keeping you in business. So automate documentation as much as possible, reduce your overhead. So yeah, who benefits most? It's you. The small business owner benefits the most from the documentation. Next thing I learned about is the importance of marketing. This has been the biggest change for me in the past year. Coming into this business, I was extremely focused on being a very competent technical financial planner, investment manager, wealth manager, tax planner, all of that, having a strong delivery to the client. And in the last year, I've realized that as core as that is, as important as that is, marketing is also extremely important so that you can serve as many people as you possibly can. You can have a great product, but if no one knows about it, it's not going to help anyone. I've been listening a lot. Some gurus I've found. There's an advisor-specific podcast that I'm listening to. And then there's this guy, Alex Hormozy, who has some interesting ideas around marketing. He's unavoidable on the internet. I don't know if that's just me or if other people have bumped into him as well. Here's one of his ideas about leads that made a change in my mind. So when you have an offer and you need to find a client, those people are going to be leads for the business. And they're always going to fit into one of these 4 quadrants here. So they either know you or they don't know you. And then you're either talking to them one-on-one or you're talking to them one to many. So that's not 1 to 0, 0. It's supposed to be infinity. So this would be how you reach out to leads who have shown some interest or are just learning about your service. Warm outreach, like, hey, just letting you know, I started a business and you know me. And I've been doing this for some time, providing value to clients. Similar cold outreach. And then this one to many was sort of eye-opening, where if it's one to many, they get to know you through your free content. So posting free content, they get to know you, they become a warm lead. And then people who don't know you, this is just paid advertising, which is a world I know nothing about. Still very much learning about it. I have spent some ad dollars, didn't go anywhere. So, all right. So this is my rapidly evolving philosophy around marketing. Everything works. There's no bad marketing. There's only inefficient marketing. Commitment is important. So it's important to have a desire to do it, something you can stick with. Delivering high quality free content is important to create warm leads. Be active in the community. So you don't have to do all your marketing online and run paid ads. You can show up to events regularly, join charitable organizations, things like that. And then it takes a lot of time. It takes about 6 months to know if something's working. And that's the hard part. You won't get quick feedback. The cycle is longer. And so iteration is slower in marketing. So who benefits most from this? It's the small business owner who benefits, and then those seeking their services. That's kind of the purpose of advertising, right? Is to let people know who's offering services that you might need. All right. Final case study here, a sale of highly appreciated asset. So we have a 40-year-old married couple. They have $200,000 of income, and they have options to generate at least $100,000 capital gains. This is great, right? Great position to be in, but there's a problem. There are two problems. First is the income will increase past the NIIT limit. So this is the net investment income tax. This is a surcharge, a surtax on every dollar of capital gains past the limit. So for a married couple, that limit is $250,000. So if we go back, if they take all of this capital gains, they would be at $300,000, right? So 50,000 of it would have this surcharge applied. And then through the sale, you're also generating additional tax and capital gains. So at the end of the year, what would the tax bill be with this large sale? So the capital gains that we can generate before hitting that NIIT limit would be $50,000 in this case. We would let the client know that this is the maximum you can spend without having a surcharge. And it's only 3.8%, but 3.8% is 3.8%. And if you can defer the gain into the next year, there's a lot of ways just to not pay that surcharge. And then we have the additional capital gains, increasing their total tax bill. So we provide an estimate of that tax that they can expect. We discussed savings and withholding strategies to meet that new higher tax bill. We also work with the client to create clarity around the purpose of the funds. A lot of times when there's highly appreciated assets, it's from a windfall. It's not something that someone was expecting. Either it was a shot in the dark stock or an option or an employer stock, crypto holdings. It can be a lot of things, but a common thread is, money from an appreciated asset. And so I work closely with my clients, asking them, what's the money for, right? We have all these goals and we have a statement of financial purpose, which is something I work with all my clients about. So who benefits most from this planning? It's those with large windfalls and unrealized capital gains. So if you've already made the sale, it's impossible to do planning. It's more of like damage control at that point. Employer stock or option or RSU sales. This is probably the most common way that people have large unrealized gains. Options traders, crypto holders, and those with high incomes. So if your income is high and you're naturally very close to that NIIT limit, it makes sense to talk with someone and plan your taxes a little bit closer. Thank you for joining us. This has been all for this month. I hope you've enjoyed this reflection on my last year as an independent financial planner. Give us a follow and we'll be posting everything from this, just more concise. Thank you.